Welcome to Built on Air, a podcast and video series about all things Airtable.
On today's episode, we travel to Bloomington, Indiana to chat with Chuck Beckett and Jar Turner of WFHB Community Radio. Chuck, IT specialist and member of the station's board of directors, and Jar, general manager, both began their venture at WFHB by volunteering, and both are passionate about the sense of community provided by their station. When the pandemic hit, WFHB was forced to restrict access to the studios and became ever more reliant on technology, which is of course where Airtable comes to the rescue. The station largely relies on volunteers to do everything from DJing, news reporting, and even radio theater. Using Airtable's new sync feature, they are able to sync their volunteer calendar to several different bases and securely share these bases amongst their volunteer base. Chuck calls this a game changer, and we have to agree. Chuck demos his calendar server base for us today, which is available on the Airtable universe. The base allows a user to enter a start date and frequency and yields dates that can be used in a recurring fashion on a calendar. One other project of interest is Chuck's recently released app called Orc. Orc is packaged into an Airtable base that is also available on the universe and employs the scripting app to output pretty printed formulas, something formula-loving users often find is missing from Airtable's native formula editor. Check out the show notes for links to learn more about WFHB Community Radio and see Chuck's bases on the Airtable universe.
This is the universe display for the recurring events calendar server.
All right.
And I'm going to show you a demo here. So this is a calendar. It has events on it. And I'm going to go backwards in time, and you'll notice that there are no events that occur in the past. And that's because the calendar server, as time marches on and a future event, the next recurrence of that event moves into the past, the calendar server automatically recalculates. So it's a perpetual calendar, and you don't have to continually update it. You can see that it's the standard Airtable calendar view. And let's see how stuff gets in here. You can set up weekly events. Every Friday at 4 p.m. it's happy hour. You can set up monthly events on a date, like December 25th, every 12 months. And you can also set up what we use a lot, which is really difficult to calculate, monthly on a certain weekday. For example, Thanksgiving, fourth Thursday every 12 months. The quarterly board meeting, the first Monday every 3 months. Mother's Day, second Sunday every 12 months. And you can enter all these. I'm going to show you. You can enter them in general, but we have little separate views for each of these event types, so you can enter your data. And for instance, here we have a board meeting in which all you need to enter is the name of the meeting, the type, if you're so inclined to look at that, the start date, which keys for us a lot of other things, such as if the start date is on the fourth Thursday in November, that's what you put in for Thanksgiving, and the duration. And then you can make it every other, as many, you can space things out. And then we lay it out. These are some of the info things, info fields, like, the board meeting is monthly, every month on the second Tuesday. Now, driving all this is a large set of date calculations. When I started this out, I didn't realize how crazy some of this stuff is. Not only do you need to know how to calculate the fourth Thursday, but then you need to figure out whether the start date is in the future, in which case you're not going to show any new occurrences except the start date. And if it's in the past and you put an end date, well, you're not going to show any occurrences. And if you're already in November, is the current November's Thanksgiving date before in the past of your date or in the future. So all of these calculations are pretty extensive. They just go on and on and on. And that is why we want to keep all these calculations in one place. So I'm going to show you an example. This is a sanitized version of my project management base.
Mhm.
And the interesting thing here is that I have a table that's synced. And this table in my station task space, it has all of the input and it has the output, meaning the next occurrences for each date. None of the calculations. I don't have to worry about any of that.
Right.
I synchronize this in and then I can use it. For instance, here I have a task. It's the Airtable and Airtable monthly application status that is in our technical meeting. So I've added a recurring date. Here it is. It's a pointer to the synced dates table. And this is the next occurrence. And in this particular case, the first Friday at 3 p.m. for 1 hour, that means on Friday, March 5th at 4 p.m., this date will automatically be recalculated to the first Friday in April, which can be really useful in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
I think that is about it. I wonder, I think unless Allie, you have anything else you'd like me to explain about it, I think we've showed it.
That's wonderful. I'm just wondering, is your next recurrence roll up field there? Is that just using like the min function to grab like the next date?
Let's take a look at it. I think it's more specific to that. I could do it that way.
Oh yeah.
There it is. You're exactly right.
That's awesome. So I'm guessing it recalculates to know if it's in the past, then it becomes blank. And then therefore your next value becomes the next occurrence. That's awesome.
Yeah, and there's so many nice features of Airtable that enable this. And I tried to put everything I could think of in one place because I don't want to ever do any date calculations again. It does have, it's on the universe. There are configuration items, so you can make it, your local time zone is the big one. You set that in one of the field definitions and it's used everywhere else.
That's awesome. That is a really big one. A lot of people struggle with times in Airtable, myself included. Definitely.
If we have time, I'd like to just briefly show one other thing. After
Please.
all these date calculations,
Yes.
I created a pretty printer. This is the universe page for that, because Airtable has a great, it has great integration capabilities with most of our development tools for text and for JavaScript.
Mhm.
But the Airtable scripts themselves, they can get pretty extensive. And I wanted to keep them pretty so I could see them. So this is packaged as a base, a pretty printer. And to use this, you bring this base up in the same browser window in a different tab as the base you're working on. Here you paste an Airtable formula from a formula field, and then you press the printify button, and it takes the formula and pretty prints it. It adds spacing and indentation, so you've got something nice to go on. And when you've got 78 formulas in one area, and there's some pretty complex formulas that people have done, then this comes in handy.
Yes, that is extremely impressive. And I completely can relate to that as well, because I'm constantly like grabbing a text editor and pasting my formulas into that in order to read them in a easier way. So that's
Right.
awesome. I could
It's
see
a
a picture.
beta now, but I hope to get feedback from the Airtable community on things like how you'd like to do new lines and break formulas up, etc.
That's awesome. Super, super impressive. And we'll put a link to that in the show notes as well, so people can go check that out. That is so cool. What was your inspiration behind that? Were you just the same thing as what I just described, constantly sick of changing your browser window or going?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, of course. And during the development of that calendar base, I just drew back. I've done pretty printers in the past,
Mhm.
back when a long time ago, and they were pretty popular. And I thought, geez, this is one thing that it's one of those chinks in the cracks. You can use your favorite editor and your favorite development environment for scripting apps, but none of these things has a pretty printer
Right.
for the specific grammar of the Airtable formula.
Exactly. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for your time today. It was wonderful talking to you guys. I wish you all the best. And I will put all the links in the show notes. And where can our listeners go to learn more about you and WFHB?
Go to WFHB.org. You can stream us on the internet.
Excellent. All right. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sally.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to give it a like or hit us up on social at BuiltOnAir. We always love to hear your comments and suggestions. And don't forget to subscribe to catch new episodes when they release. It helps us keep the podcast going.